Okay, hear me out. You know that feeling when you finally get home after a long day, or if you work from home like me, you close your office door for the night and you just breathe and you exhale. Everyone breathe. That's what your space should feel like a sanctuary, a place where you can truly unwind, let go of the stress, and just be. This is advice I'm giving to myself because I've been taking on a lot at work. And at the end of the day, if your bed is not the most inviting, relaxing, luxurious part of your home, we need to talk. Like, what are you doing? So here's the thing. Your 5 to 9 is just as important as your 9 to 5. You deserve rest that actually restores you, and that starts with Cozy Earth. I'm so excited to be working with Cozy Earth because I have used their products before even working with them. This is a dream, okay? And you're going to have amazing dreams when you hear the rest of this. I have the Cozy Earth bamboo sheet set, and let me tell you, I even asked my husband for a review so I could talk to you about this. These sheets are so breathable. You literally sleep cooler. And by the way, I run very warm. Like, I cannot have a bed or like sheets or anything, a comforter that are warm or make me sweat because it's inevitable. So having sheets like this bamboo sheet set that I have from Cozy Earth is a game changer. It's literally several degrees cooler. There's no more overheating, no more tossing and turning, and the fabric is next level in terms of softness. Cozy Earth only uses the best materials, so you feel like you're wrapped in pure comfort. Plus, their durable weave means no pilling ever. And I hate pilling. All of my sweaters are pilling, and I just can't stand it. And then you end up having to do all this extra work to depill. But the good news, as I said, is that Cozy Earth's materials mean that there's no pilling ever, and it's guaranteed for 10 years. Let's also talk about their bamboo pajamas, because if you're still sleeping in that old stretched out t-shirt, it is time for an upgrade. These are lightweight but cozy, designed to help you fall asleep faster and stay asleep longer types of pajamas. It's the kind of comfort that makes you want to lounge all day. And by the way, I don't know if my mom is going to hear this, but this is what I'm going to get her for Mother's Day. Mother's Day is coming up, and this is terrible, but I always end up being like, oh my gosh, it's Mother's Day. But now, luckily, I have a heads up, and I'm reminding myself and you that Mother's Day is coming up. So buy your mother, your spouse, your dog mom, something amazing like these bamboo pajamas or the sheet set to really make their Mother's Day special. As a matter of fact, I'm going to ask my husband to get me the bamboo pajamas because I am sleeping in that old stretched out t-shirt and it is time for an upgrade. So here's the thing. What I really love about Cozy Earth is that they're committed to quality in every way. Their products aren't just luxurious, they're ethically made and responsibly produced. So when you invest in better sleep, you're also investing in something good. And if you're not sure if it's for you, totally fine, no worries. Cozy Earth gives you 100 nights to decide. 100! And if you don't love it, you can send it back. And with that, there's a 10-year warranty, so you know that they believe in their products. So if you're ready to turn your bedroom into a true retreat, one that feels like a luxury hotel, but better, go to cozyearth.com and use my code HUMANHR for 40% off their best-selling sheets, pajamas, towels, and more. That's 40% off. That is like the best deal ever. And if you get a post-purchase survey, by the way, please let them know that you heard about Cozy Earth right here on the Bringing the Human Back to Human Resources podcast, because it is so helpful for them to know that my discussion with you about having this most fabulous 5 to 9 after your 9 to 5 impacted you in some way. And by the way, like I said, the first thing that I'm buying, not only for my mother, but also for the other mothers in my life, are those cozy, fabulous bamboo pajamas. So let's prioritize sleep, prioritize you, sleep better with Cozy Earth. Welcome to the Bringing the Human Back to Human Resources podcast. I'm Traci Chernoff, and I've spent my entire professional career in HR. Each week, we'll explore the delicate balance between people and business with the aim to reconnect the two and create meaningful outcomes. Listen in as I share my own experiences, challenge the status quo, and chat with guests from various industries about our mission to bring the human back to human resources. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Bringing the Human Back to Human Resources podcast. Thank you so much for being here for another week. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you're catching this episode. And if you're watching on YouTube or Spotify, leave a comment, give a thumbs up, share in general, whether you're listening or watching, share this episode with a friend. Share the podcast with a friend. A couple of housekeeping items here. One, the podcast is officially 5 years old, which is insane. The very first episode came out, I think it was November 2nd and 2020. So that is wild, considering it's now been 5 years, which is kind of unbelievable. Like I always say that, whether you're doing something or not, the time is going to pass. This is what ultimately led me to getting my master's, because I was like, you know what? I can only go part-time because I'm not willing to take on more student loans. I have to be able to work and pay for school as I go. And so I went part-time, and I remember friends, oh my gosh, there's so many deer in the back. Sorry. Oh, that looks like a little baby. Well, maybe an adolescent deer because they no longer have spots. Anyway, sorry. Nature. So when I was going for my master's, I remember I had friends who were like, part-time, wouldn't you rather just do full-time and get it over with? And I was like, yeah, of course, but I can't afford to do that. I need to work. And also, I didn't really want a gap in my work. I kind of just wanted to do both. And I was like, the time is going to pass anyway. So whether I do it part time or do it full time, like at the end, the outcome is the same. I have a degree, I have another degree, right? So that tends to be one of the mottos that I live by, is that you could either choose to do something with the time that is passing either way, or you choose to do nothing. And that's okay. Like some people don't want to do much more with their time, and that is totally fine. But if you are looking to continue your education or take on a new hobby, the time is going to pass anyway. So do it. Even if it's once a month, just do it. Anyway, so I digress. That is my outlook on the last 5 years, is that, wow, I got married, I had kids, I've switched jobs, all while still recording this podcast. And so I just wanted to thank you for being here, whether you are new here or whether you've been here since day one. I appreciate that you are one of the listeners of my show. And the second housekeeping item is that this is actually going to be the last episode of 2025. I know, crazy. If you've been here at least for the last year, you know that I generally take the last couple of weeks of December off and the first week of January off. But of course, there will be episodes starting. Let me check my production schedule. Our first episode of 2026 will launch on January 6th. So, still so much to look forward to. I think that's awesome. Oh, yeah. I have January 6th duplicated. No, yeah, no. January 6th, we have an episode. How exciting. Actually, it's going to be a Policy Pulse episode. It's going to be the first one of 2026. So we're going to kick off the new year with what 2026 might have in store for us. And I'm realizing now, based on when I'm recording, I have to start watching Hallmark movies. I need to get myself into the winter mood and the holiday spirit. Wild. It's amazing how time flies. So anyway, take my motto as you will. And thank you for being here through all of 2025 and beyond 2025 if you've been here even longer. So this week I wanted to kind of use this solo episode almost as like a catch up and a catch all. Some topics that are well, one topic in particular is like really top of mind for me right now because at work, my team and I have noticed like an increase and an influx in very obviously AI generated resumes and applications. And I thought it would be helpful to talk about on the episode or on the podcast this week because it's kind of like a cautionary tale and a word to the wise for all of you who maybe are using AI to create your resumes or paying for a program to apply to jobs for you. So let's take the resume piece first. I think it's very obvious when someone uses AI to generate their resume. It's not like very specific. Usually there aren't any statistics, or data points, I should say, metrics. Generally, it kind of just reads as like any other resume that might come through for a particular job. And certainly it tends to fall flat in terms of having like personality. Whereas when someone creates their own resume or they hire someone like me to help them write a resume, there's more of a personal touch and you can kind of feel the person's individuality and also their passions and what they focus on, what they want out of a job. And of course, it's very easy for anyone to take their resume, take a job description that they see online, and say, "Dear ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, please match my resume to this job description," right? Because, of course, candidates know that AI is often used in hiring. And so when there's a higher percentage of a resume matching a job description, maybe that increases their chances of getting an interview. That, totally intrinsic, right? However, I think the cautionary tale here is that, there is a person, hopefully, on the other end of the hiring process who is looking at your resume and is potentially thinking, what is this? Like, what am I getting from this person? And even if the job description and the resume might match, it doesn't necessarily mean that that candidate is moving on to the next phase of the recruiting process just simply because it's so obvious that they, have maybe generated their resume completely or solely through AI. So that's the first thing. The second is that when, let's say, someone effectively, uses AI to generate their resume and they get an interview, that resume being generated by AI does not necessarily mean that you've actually done the things on the resume that it says that you've done. And so you go into an interview and the hiring team asks questions about how you've led projects, what you've done specifically to, kind of execute or achieve on the things that your resume says that you have accomplished, and you don't necessarily have an answer. Um, that's not great. And frankly, the way I kind of look at the world is that you get one reputation. You don't get really a redo on your reputation. Like, we can think of celebrities and all these people, sure, who maybe get like a second chance at building up their names or, you know, revitalizing their reputations, but it's much harder for us normies out here. Like, and industries are really small, so once you've made a name for yourself that you don't actually have the experience, and you like falsified your resume, or you embellished on your resume so much that you didn't actually pass an interview round, like, that's not great. It doesn't look good. And hiring teams generally remember that because it doesn't happen that often. It's happening a little bit more often now, I think, but it doesn't happen often enough where it's like, oh, just another person where I'm experiencing this. No, it's like, oh, this person named so and so obviously over embellished their resume. It's just not a good idea. And then I had to ask, what happens if you get the job and you don't actually have the capabilities or the skills to execute on the things that your resume has overly embellished, um, as something that you can effectively do? Like, then what? Then thinking about your reputation again, that's even worse, because then you've made a name for yourself with more than just the hiring team, and you're not going to succeed. Like, you're like, most people in that circumstance are going to fail. And it's just, and then the question is, well, they said that they had all this experience. Their resume showed they've done these things. But when you get to the job and you can't actually execute or achieve on the things that allegedly had achieved before, that's problematic. So, seeing this recently made me want to share with all of you that I highly encourage you to stay away from, solely using AI to generate your resumes. Now, certainly, if you have your resume and you've created it, or you've worked with someone like me to create your resume, you can always say, "Hey, dear AI, generative AI tool, how does my resume match up with this particular job description? What would make it stronger? What makes it weak?" And in those cases, the, ChatGPT or whatever tool will say, "Oh, this is either a good match or not a great match. And here's where you can, elevate your resume." And assuming that you actually have that experience, then that it gives good feedback on that. But I would really, really, really stay away from saying, "Dear, dear AI tool, please create a resume for me that matches this job description." It's just a bad idea. And like I said, I think it's very obvious when that happens. Um, and the other thing on this topic that I've thought about is that a colleague of mine had was conducting an interview for someone, and this person, it was a video interview. This person had the camera, like, you can't, if you're watching you can see, but basically like starting at their chin, and so there wasn't like a full kind of like frame in the video. And my colleague said that it was pretty obvious that this candidate was using um, AI to support them in answering questions that my colleague would ask. And he said that he noticed this, or like could tell that that's what was happening, because he would ask a very specific question, and I guess, maybe at some level, this candidate was using their phone to, use dictation and get the question in from my colleague. And then they would just kind of rattle off what ChatGPT or whatever tool they were using kind of wrote out for them. And he said that the questions that he asked, or the answers that the candidate shared, often did not even match the questions that he asked. And so again, like from a reputation standpoint, what are you doing? Like that's just, I understand that, and I know that it's a very, very challenging job market, and this, I think, is what is kind of creating some of the pressure for people to resort to like completely relying on AI, to get interviews, to get jobs. But that's just really bad. Like that's something that you really don't come back from, and it does tarnish your reputation. You never know who could be your next boss or hiring manager. Like you just never know. So just think about your reputation first, before anything else. And yeah, so anyway, my colleague said that it was like super obvious, and it was just a really, really bad interview, even though the candidate was obviously very smart and successful, at least based on what their resume, the story that their resume told. And I wonder, like, if this reliance on AI comes from like a lack of confidence, or maybe like a lack of maybe self-esteem. I don't know. It's probably confidence, but I think about if someone feels so inclined to fully use AI especially when they're interviewing, like in the interview, it's either there's a lack of confidence, or they actually have zero experience and everything is a lie. The resume is a lie. Their experience is a lie. I don't know. I would like to think that that's not the case, but that certainly is kind of the read that I'm getting. And the other thing is, again, like knowing that the job market is really tough. Maybe it's like a desperation thing. Like I need to do anything that I can to get this job. But all I can say is that the more prepared you are for an interview, the better it's going to go. AI is not going to land you the job, but AI can help you to prepare for the interview. And I work with a lot of clients on their resumes and interview prep skills, and courses. And so when I work with clients on um, getting prepared for interviews, like there's no harm in saying, okay, like, I give people a workbook when I work with them, but I also say, like, leverage AI. You can say, like, hey, ask me some interview questions, and then I'll answer them. And then you can type in your answer, and AI will tell you, well, this is how you can make that answer stronger. Like, it's all about how we use these tools. I think it's not this like all or nothing approach. And I think I've said that before on the podcast, that I don't see AI as this replacement theory tool, or something that can like fully um, basically replace like what a human can do. Whereas, like, I don't know, I grew up like practicing interviews with like my parents, and like friends. And I just don't think that AI can necessarily replace that entirely, but AI can certainly strengthen our competency, and help us think about things that maybe we otherwise didn't think about. And so when I think about it's the how we use the tool kind of concept, instead of seeing this like black and white, okay, I have to use AI to generate my resume, I have to use AI to apply to jobs, I have to use AI to interview successfully, you can instead say, I need to use AI to ensure that I'm most prepared, or that I have all of the, that I'm thinking about all of the ways that I can, you know, effectively communicate my experience. And there are so many great ways to use AI, but again, this all or nothing thing does not work. And then finally, my other thought on AI is that in the last like couple of weeks, we've noticed, my colleagues and I have noticed that we're getting like a ton of emails where people are basically sending an email to like the recruiting team, to my team, saying, hey, I saw this job posted and like I'm interested in applying and here's my resume. And it's from like a company. First of all, I would say pretty confidently that people are not going to be clicking or opening attachments, clicking links or opening attachments from unknown senders. So this is red flag number one. But red flag number two is that we've researched these companies and they're companies that people pay to have apply to jobs for them. So to give you context here, if someone is looking for like a sales job, right? They can pay a particular company to take their resume and apply to jobs that match, basically any job that matches their preferences: remote, hybrid, in person, certain salary, certain job titles, certain locations. And then those companies will just like, spam apply all of those openings. And like maybe it works for some people, but um I couldn't imagine if someone has paid a particular company and then they get a job interview and they actually have no idea what job it is that they've applied for. They have to then go and look for the job description and they have to do all this research. And it's just like it's kind of like a bizarre concept to me, but maybe it works in that, statistically, the more jobs that you apply to, maybe, you're more likely to get more interviews. But a lot of people will make the argument, like a lot of thought leaders in the recruiting space will make the argument that you have to be really precise about the jobs that you apply to, not just, kind of this spray and pray approach. And that you have to like really be specific about industry and job and um in the all the ins and outs that the job requires within the job description. So I will say that those companies that are just like sending resumes to people's emails, like that's just not going to work. I don't know anyone. Yeah, no, I don't know anyone who is seeing an applicant come through over email from an unknown, from a company, not from the person's personal email. That's a little bit different, but from a company, and then is like, oh yeah, let me open this unknown sender's attachment. It just doesn't happen. It doesn't make any sense. But certainly, I have seen applicants get through the door by sending emails from their own email address where they're like, hey, I love your company. I've been looking out for jobs. I see this job. I think I'd be a great fit. That's different. But to come from a company, like your resume is just not going to get looked at. I don't know, at least not from anyone that I know. And I know a handful of people who make hiring decisions. And I just don't think it's effective. And frankly, you might get caught up in the spam filter anyway. So then it's like, what are you paying for? Why are you paying this company or whatever companies to have this like spray and pray approach to your career? Like at some level, you have to be involved. So I don't know. Maybe I have like a little bit of an old school mentality on that. I don't know. I know the job market's tough. I know that it tends to land people in this like situation or predicament where they're like, I'm just going to do anything that I can. And I totally can understand that. I also think that, if you are without a job, like paying these companies money that you otherwise are not earning on a regular basis is probably a waste. And it would be better for you to work with like a headhunter or a recruiter or someone in your network and pay them to help you get a job rather than paying these companies that actually probably do not care about you that much. So that's I don't know if it's a hot take, but that's my take. I'm curious if any of you have used these companies before, or if you've, been successful in having AI like generate your resumes or apply for you to different jobs. I'm very curious. So if you can email me or comment on this podcast episode, I would really appreciate it, because then I'll have a little bit of a greater insight into what is kind of going on around town, so to speak, and what people are doing and why. So my email is contact@hrtraci.com, and you can send me your thoughts there. And of course, I can always keep you anonymous, as I've kept many, not guests, but many listener comments anonymous in the past. So those are my thoughts for the last episode of 2025. I think when we go into 2026, of course, we're going to continue to see a lot of discussion around AI. That is like 1,000% without a doubt. We're going to continue to talk about it. And I also think it'll be very interesting to see how the landscape evolves, whether it's workplaces, whether it's the government regulation. It'll be interesting to see. And certainly, I think that, the job market hopefully will get better, but I do think certainly it will be even more competitive because of AI, because maybe there are some jobs that have reduced in quantity as a result of companies streamlining a little bit of their operations, whatever that might be. Again, I don't believe in the replacement theory concept, but I do think that the competitiveness in the job market will continue to increase. And frankly, this is where I think working with someone who can help you craft a really strong resume, really strong cover letter, whatever it is that you might use, will be all the more worthwhile. And so that is also a humble plug that I do work with clients on their resumes, on their interview skills, on their cover letters, on their bios, especially executive bios. So if that's something that you'd ever like to work with me on, you can always reach out, contact@hrtraci.com, and we can work together. And that's kind of everything for 2025. I really appreciate you being here for the whole year and beyond, if you've been here again for more than just a year. And I look forward to catching up in 2026 and seeing all of the things that kind of come down the line. And by the way, we have some unbelievable guests lined up for 2026. I've had already some amazing conversations that I think are really going to take the podcast to the next level. So stay tuned for that. Yeah, so have a wonderful end of year. Have a very happy holiday season, whatever holiday you might celebrate, if any. And happy new year as well. See you in 2026. May it be a fabulous year ahead. Thank you so much. Bye. Hey, just before you go, don't forget to subscribe to this show so that you are the first to hear when an episode drops each week. And maybe leave a 5-star review and a comment about how much you loved this episode. Plus, if you have someone in mind who would really enjoy this episode, make sure you share it with them. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next week.